Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back on another episode of Way of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players who Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode, we're taking a deep dive into the Genestealer Cults. We are revisiting this game because now that the Necromunda Ash Waste expansion has dropped, a lot of players are taking their gangs, leaving High Primus, and going out into the Ash Wastes. So because of that, some of the game mechanics for the different gangs have changed significantly because what used to work in the Underhive may not necessarily work out in the Ash Wastes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the Genestealer Cult list. We'll talk about its strengths and weaknesses of playing a Genestealer Cult gang. We'll also talk about each of their fighters and also provide you with 3 rosters that you can use to start your very first campaign of Necromunda the Ash Wastes. So that being said, let's get this video on a roll. Now, luckily, the strengths that a Genestealer Cult had while they were in the Underhive of High Primus still pretty much applies out in the Ash Waste for the most part. So in that sense, they're actually quite lucky. Third arms are really good for a Genestealer Cult. They provide extra close combat attack, and they also eliminate the need for using suspensors for your champions because they can carry around heavy weapons without needing those suspensors because the third arm actually allows them to use it as a base action. So that part is really nice as well. At the same time, you also have excellent skill choices with shooting, combat ferocity, as well as cunning being available for most of your fighters, which is all kinds of good. In my opinion, the the ferocity, as well as the cunning skill trees are probably the most useful of the skill trees, followed closely by shooting and combat, so that part is nice as well. Now, another great thing about a Genestealer Cult gang is that they're very versatile. They can do shooting and combat pretty equally well depending on how you kit out your fighters and prepare your lists. So because of that, they will be able to use those same abilities out in the Ash Waste as well. And another thing that's really cool about playing a Genestealer Cult gang is that if you already play Warhammer 40,000 or Kill Team and you play Genestealer Cults, well, now you have a gang that you can easily and cheaply field in Necromunda as well. And that's one of the nice things. There's only a few gangs that actually allows you to do that, one of them being Hell Chaos Cultists as well as this, the Genestealer Cult. You can play all 3 of those games and, relatively do it cheaply, which is actually kind of nice. And once again, these are the strengths of actually playing a Genestealer Cult gang for Necromunda the Ash Wastes. Now, let's go talk about the weaknesses of playing a Genestealer Cult gang. One of the biggest weaknesses, of course, is once again the Hybrid Acolytes. The Hybrid Acolytes consist of the champions in your gang, and unfortunately they're extremely fragile with only 3 toughness as well as 1 wound. This has always been a common complaint about playing a Genestealer Cult gang, but in all fairness though, every gang has their strengths and weaknesses, so this just happens to be one of yours. Now, the weakness of a Hybrid Acolyte in terms of toughness as well as wound characteristics can be somewhat mitigated because now you're fighting out in the Ash Waste where most of the guys are being mounted on vehicles, so you can actually kind of mitigate that handicap by using vehicles, so that part's kind of nice. Another problem that you're also going to face too is that aberrants are only initiative 5 in your Genestealer Cults, which traditionally in Necromunda wasn't such a big deal. You just kind of kept them on the ground level or made sure they didn't go near any edges, or how did you perform anything that required initiative checks more or less. But because boarding actions now are so important, you got to take an initiative test in order to do that. It could hinder your ability to do close combat with your aberrants because if they don't board enemy vehicles, there will be an attack on their vehicles. Another way for them to come out of the ground and dismount. So that could be a potential handicap when playing a Genestealer Cult gang. So now that we're done talking about the strengths and weaknesses for Genestealer Cult gangs in the Ash Waste, let's go ahead and talk about their individual fighters. So the first fighter we're going to talk about is the Cult Adept, which is one of 2 leader choices you can choose. So if you decide to go with this fighter, this leader costs 120 credits. They have a movement characteristic of 4 plus weapon skill, ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 3 plus for initiative, 2 attacks. They also have 3 plus for leadership, 5 plus for cool, 5 plus for willpower, and 4 plus for intelligence. And the skills that they have access to are primarily cunning, as well as leadership, and of course cult weird powers as well. Now, when it comes to the Cult Adept is a very mediocre fighter at best. When you look at their stats, they're pretty much in rank with a normal Neophyte Hybrid for the most part. But the reason why you get the Cult Adept as your leader is because of those psychology stats, especially leadership, cool, willpower, and intelligence. They have really excellent stats for those. And the primary reason you go with this character is because this character is a psyker. Now, because this character is a weird, they have access to psychic powers, fighters. And before the Book of the Outcast was released, psychic abilities were very dubious at best. There weren't very many powerful abilities you could choose from for the most part. They were just kind of like more of an annoyance than anything else. But once Book of the Outcast dropped, and we had those beautiful psychic disciplines that popped up in that book, psychic powers are very much a real concern that you have to deal with now in Necromunda, especially out in the Ash Wastes. So because of that, even though the Adept may not be all that great at combat, they can spam those psychic abilities and really cause some pain to your opponent. Now, another thing that needs to be stated as well is that you want to make sure you pair up this person with a Psychic Familiar as soon as possible. Psychic Familiars add a great level of protection for your fighters, also help out with those willpower tests as well, so you want to get those as quickly as possible. And we'll talk a little bit more about those Psychic Familiars and why they're so important as we go down later on in the video. So this is your very first leader that you can choose from, which is the Cult Adept. Now, the second leader you can choose from is the Cult Alpha. This character costs 145 credits. They have a 5-inch movement characteristic, 3+ for weapon skill, 3+ for ballista skill. They have 4 strength, 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 3+ for initiative, 2 attacks. They have 3+ for leadership, 5+ for cool, 5+ for willpower, as well as 4+ for intelligence. Now, when it comes to the Alpha, when it comes to their skills, they have combat, as well as leadership and shooting as their primary abilities. So when it comes to their secondaries, they pretty much have ferocity, as well as ferocity and cunning as their secondaries. Now, the Alpha is really nice because the Cult Alpha is an extremely versatile leader. They can do close combat or shooting equally well. The 3+ ballista skill and access to the shooting skill makes them super deadly. But that 3+ weapon skill and 4 strength also makes them pretty good in close combat as well. Plus, they automatically come with a 3rd arm anyway, so that 3rd arm can give you 3 pistols, or you can carry a rifle and a pistol, or a special weapon and a pistol, or a heavy weapon without having to use suspensors and fire out the basic action. Like I said, there's a lot of good things going on with the Cult Alpha. The nice thing about the Cult Alpha as well is that they also have they have really good psychological stats, which is on par with the Cult Adept as well. The only thing they don't have going for them is they don't have really good access to weird powers, but that's perfectly fine, because if you did that, the Cult Alpha might be too good, and that's understandable why they did that as well. So when it comes to this guy, equip them either way you want. If you're more comfortable shooting or close combat, it's up to you how you want to do that. It's more about your playstyle, but a Cult Alpha is a really good versatile build as well. Now, unfortunately, you have to choose between the Adept or the Alpha. You can't go wrong either way. Just ask yourself what kind of playstyle is more to what you want to do, and then, of course, choose your leader accordingly. Alright, so let's talk about your champions for your gang. These guys are called Hybrid Acolytes. They cost 85 credits apiece. For their characteristics, they have a 4-inch movement, 3+ for weapon and ballista skill. They have 3 strength and toughness, 1 wound, 3+ for initiative, 1 attack, 4 leadership, 5 cool, 7 willpower, as well as 6 intelligence. Now, when it comes to your Hybrid Acolyte skills, their primary skills are cunning as well as ferocity. And then after that, for their secondary is agility, as well as combat, as well as leadership. Now, when it comes to your Hybrid Acolytes, like we talked about earlier in this presentation, under the weaknesses of this gang, Hybrid Acolytes are very fragile. They only have 3 toughness, and that would normally not be a big problem, but they only have 1 wound. And that's where the real problem comes with these guys. These guys are definitely glass cannons. 1 hit, and you can basically kiss these guys goodbye if you're not careful as well. Now, when it comes to the Hybrid Acolytes, because they're so fragile, even though they do have that 3 of weapon skill, you pretty much want to use them as operating your heavy weapons and special weapons, and keep them as shooting operators for your gang, is primarily how you want to do that. You don't necessarily equip them with close combat weapons, because they won't survive that long if you do. So even though, infiltrating a Cult Acolyte with a heavy rock saw may sound really cool, it could work out against you if you're not careful. So keep that in mind when it comes to your Hybrid Acolytes. My opinion, if you want to use them as long-range shooters, I would recommend you actually getting the extra arm upgrade for them. Yes, the extra arm upgrade does cost 45 credits, but allows them to use heavy weapons and still be able to fire on those basic actions without having to purchase suspensors. Because remember, suspensors cost 60 credits, whereas a 3rd arm only costs 45. In addition, the 3rd arm also gives you an additional attack that you can use. That also gives you running traits. So probably want to go with the extra arm on that one, so that we can fire those heavy weapon platforms. Things like mining lasers, seismic cannons would be really good for these guys. I prefer that you probably want to stick with mining lasers, just because you got to deal with vehicles now in the Ash Waste. So that's something you might want to think about when it comes to your Hybrid Acolytes. Alright, so up next are your Aberrants. These are your close combat killing machines. These guys cost 95 credits. They have a 5-inch movement characteristic, 3 plus weapon skill, 6 plus ballistic skill, but that's not so bad because you can't equip shooting weapons with these guys anyways. They have 5 strength, 4 toughness, 2 wounds, 5 initiative. They have 2 attacks, 9 plus leadership, 4 plus cool, 6 plus willpower, as well as 10 plus intelligence. Now, because they're gangers, you have to traditionally roll off on the ganger chart for experience, but if they do become a specialist though, Aberrants have access to brawn as well as ferocity as their primaries, with combat and cunning being their secondary. Now, when it comes to the Aberrant, these are, once again, close combat killing machines with these guys, right? With that strength 4, 4 toughness, 2 wounds. You want to get these guys into combat as quickly as possible, especially that 5-inch movement, and have them wreak chaos onto your enemy as well. Now, at the beginning, you might be tempted to purchase really powerful close combat weapons like power picks and power hammers for your Aberrants, but the problem with that is that yes, while they are really powerful close combat weapons, they might be too expensive for your starting gang. Alright, now this is where the fighting knife comes in, because the fighting knife is a really cheap close combat weapon. I suggest you give your Aberrants 2 fighting knives, because in that way they get additional attack when they charge. So they'll have 2 attacks base. When they charge 4, they'll get a 3rd attack, and because they have that extra knife, they'll have 4 attacks in total. 4 strength, 5 attacks with backstabbing, really powerful as well. Now, as the campaign develops, of course, you can get them more weapons, better weapons as time goes on, though, like chain swords, for example, a really good combination, because that way they can parry, or a versatile weapon like a chain glaive or something like that could be really cool too. But for right off the bat, though, I suggest you stick with fighting knives, just because you want that extra attack to put the hurting on your opponents. I forgot to mention, the Aberrants also come with the unstoppable skill, so that way they can heal flesh wounds right off the bat, so that's kind of cool. Now, unfortunately, in the Ash Waste, their role has changed just a little, just slightly. Before in the Underhive, Aberrants could just move around on the battlefield, charge their opponents, take them out, no problem. But because now you have boarding actions to board enemy vehicles now, it could be a little bit more of a hindrance for these guys, because they have that horrible 5-up initiative test. You could, of course, buy a boarding ramp for one of your vehicles that will help solve this problem by making them have a 4-up initiative whenever they do a boarding action, but still, even the 4-up is a 50-50 chance. So keep that in mind when you're using Aberrants, especially when it comes to boarding actions. They're going to definitely struggle with that a little bit, so keep that in mind if you take these guys with you out into the Ash Wastes. And the final fighter that you have is the Neophyte Hybrid. These guys cost 45 credits. These are your gangers, and let's talk about their stats real quick. They have a 4-inch movement, 4 plus weapon skill, 4 plus ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness, 1 wound. They have 4 plus initiative, 1 attack. They have 7 leadership, 5 cool, 6 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. Now, because they're gangers, they'll typically roll off on the ganger experience table, but if they should become specialists, their primary skills are in cunning as well as ferocity, while their secondary skills are in agility as well as combat. So let's talk about the Neophyte Hybrid real quick. At least 50% of your gang must be made up of this fighter type. The Neophyte Hybrid is kind of like a combination of a juvie as well as a ganger level fighter, because you have to have so many of them as well in your gang. So that's the reason why you need to have at least 50% of them. The nice thing about Neophyte Hybrids, they're relatively cheap for what they do. They automatically come with a hazard suit, so that's kind of nice. And so because of that, because they're so extremely cheap, you can kind of equip them as such as well. Just kind of go bare bones with it. Just choose the weapon of your choice, primarily like either an auto gun or a last gun. It's up to you which one would be more valuable to you. If you're looking for more rapid fire, I suggest you go with an auto gun, but if you're looking for precise long range shooting, a last gun, you can't go wrong. Plus that 2-up plentiful trait is always nice as well. Now, you of course can upgrade your Neophyte Hybrids with a 3rd arm if you want to, but it's not really worth the cost, just because 45 credits on top of a fighter, on top of this fighter, while it may sound cool for that extra attack, you're not really going to do much with them anyways. They can't really equip heavy weapons as of yet right now, so I wouldn't really worry about that. I mean, if you manage to get one from your settlement, I mean, that's perfectly fine. Oh, I'm sorry, not from your settlement. That's the Dominion campaigns. But anyways, if you decide to do with that mechanic, it's fine if that comes that way. But traditionally, though, you want to keep them cheap, keep them expendable. If they start to level up and start becoming good, then maybe get them better equipment and better weapons and stuff. But until then, though, you just want to use these guys as the cannon fodder as they're designed to be. So now that we're done talking about the Neophyte Hybrids real quick, let's go ahead and talk about your Psychic Familiars, which will be very, very important. Alright, so one of the important fighters that we put on this group is your Psychic Familiar. Now, you've noticed I've been talking about these guys quite a bit, but let's go ahead and talk about why that is the case. Your Psychic Familiar costs 25 credits, so not that great. Very, very cheap. For their movement characteristic, they have a 5-inch movement, they have a 4+ weapon skill, so that part's kind of nice. At the same time, they have 2 strength, 2 toughness, 1 wound, 2 initiative, 1 attack, 7 leadership, 7 cool, 6 willpower, as well as 7 intelligence. So they don't have really all that great in terms of their abilities. However, when it comes to their skills that they become specialists, they do have cunning as their primary with agility as their secondary. But you're not taking the Psychic Familiar for their stats. What you're doing is you're taking them for the Omen of Fortune as the reason why you're taking them. So let's talk about that rule real quick. So Omen of Fortune, it says, while this familiar is within 3 inches of its owner, that fighter may avoid 1 successful hit per turn by taking a successful willpower check. Make the check immediately after a successful roll to hit has been made and against the fighter. If the check is failed, the attack hits as normal. If the check is passed, the attacker counts as having missed and the dice is discarded. Templates and blast markers are placed as normal for the purposes of determining hits against other fighters, but the familiar's owner is assumed to have somehow dodged clear. So, this gives you ability to escape being shot at is pretty much what it does. Same thing with close combat attacks as well. It gives you basically a willpower test worth of ward saves. And the nice thing about it, since your Cult Adept and your Cult Alpha have 5+ willpower anyways, they're more likely going to make that. So because of that, they can just dodge shots being sent their way, dodge attacks being sent their way, and that way they don't have to worry about being harmed. You could definitely spam this really easily. Now it says you can take 3 in the entire gang, but it doesn't tell you how many per fighter, if that makes sense. So if you really want to, you can actually purchase 3 of these things for your leader and they'll never get hit by anything ever again, which is actually kind of cool as well. Unfortunately, these Psychic Familiars, even though they're called Psychic Familiars, which is kind of funny, they don't actually assist at all with psychic abilities, if that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of weird. They gave these Psychic Familiars the Clamber and Catfall skills, but they didn't give them the ability to help out with psychic tests for your adepts, so they're not as useful as, say, Hell Out Chaos Cultist Familiars, because Familiars from the Hell Out Chaos Cult can help you do rerolls for your willpower tests for people who use psychic abilities. Unfortunately, that ability is not available for your Cult Adept, which is kind of weird. It's like, why call them Psychic Familiars in that sense? But, you know, that's the rules as written. You can, of course, house rule it to where they do, because maybe Games Workshop just forgot to add it, or whatever the case may be. But even then, even if they don't provide you any boost for your psychic powers, they're still great for keeping your leaders alive. So that's the reason why I like using Psychic Familiars so much. Use these for your guys as leaders for the most part to keep them protected. You could use them for your Acolyte Hybrid champions if you want to, but at a 7+ willpower, it's kind of like 50-50 whether it works or not. So you could if you got the extra credits. I mean, one more additional save for your champions is not bad, all things considered, but I definitely consider spamming these for your leaders if you get the chance. Alright, so now that we're done talking about all the fighters, let's go ahead and talk about the list that you can use to use out in the Ashway. So the first one I like to call is a standard list. It costs you 1,400 credits to fill this one. Your leader's going to be a Cult Alpha. This person's going to cost you 310 credits. They're equipped with a Hazard Suit as well as a Seismic Cannon. And because they got that third arm, they don't have to worry about using suspensors. They can still fire as a basic action. They have a Psychic Familiar for additional protection as well as Commanding Presence ability for larger group activations. After that, you're going to have 2 Hybrid Acolytes. They're number 1 and 2. They both cost you 185 credits apiece. They're both equipped exactly the same with hazard suits, extra arms, grenade launchers, as well as Overwatch. That extra arm, you're buying it even though you don't need it to operate your grenade launcher. You're doing that so that way you can get more heavier weapons as time goes on. Plus, a grenade launcher, when combined with Overwatch, is an instant win button. Being able to interrupt your enemy's activations using a grenade launcher is just the ultimate pwn. So that's the reason why we equipped your Hybrid Acolytes with that. Now, after that, you're going to have 3 Neophyte Hybrids. Hybrid number 1, 2, and 3. They're all equipped exactly the same. All 3 cost you 60 credits apiece with hazard suits, last guns, as well as last pistols. And then finally, you're going to have 2 Scum Racers in this gang. Scum Racer number 1 is going to cost you 265 credits. He's got operating a Ridge Runner vehicle with a mining laser, as well as Nitro Burner and Tire Claws. And then Hive Scum Racer number 2 is going to cost you 275 credits. They're going to once again operate a Ridge Runner with mining laser, Nitro Burner, tire claws, as well as flare launchers. So this list is a great list full of mobile firepower. This gang is mounted onto 2 Ridge Runners, giving you speed to go across the battlefield as quick as you want. Those mining lasers are also very powerful with firepower, well as able to hit those higher toughness vehicles. This list is also designed to be improved upon during the course of the campaign, focusing on more heavy weapons for your Acolytes as well as your Ridge Runners. So for your Acolytes, you can give them more powerful heavy weapons as they go through the campaign, using that extra arm so that way they can fire them as a basic action. You can also put more heavy weapons on your Ridge Runners, like twin-linked heavy stubbers would be really cool to have on your Ridge Runners as well. Now your gang will consist of 2 support teams. Support Fire Team number 1 consists of your Cult Alpha, Hybrid Acolyte number 1, Neophyte Hybrid number 1, and Scum Racer number 1. And then Support Fire Team number 2 will consist of your Hybrid Acolyte number 2, Neophyte Hybrid number 2, Neophyte Hybrid number 3, as well as Scum Racer number 2. Now the tactics for this list is actually quite simple. Both Ridge Runners move forward and open fire with their mining lasers on enemy vehicles, while the Acolytes in the back fire their grenade launchers at their targets as well. The Neophyte Hybrids operate the mining lasers, while the Cult Alpha fires close range combat with their Seismic cannon, and if needed, fighters can dismount and fight upon the ground as well. So because that, you'll be using these in tandem, so using them to outflank, outmaneuver your enemy, shoot your enemies, dismount, cause additional chaos. It's a really good standard list to use. In fact, if I was to play Genestealer Cults, this would be the list I would actually use myself, just because of all the firepower options available and the fast maneuverability of your vehicles and the ability to transport your vehicles, transport your fighters as well. So this is what I like to call the standard list. It's a really good balanced list, and I highly recommend it. Now this next list I like to call the Quick and the Dead list. This one's going to cost you 1,395 credits. This one's going to be using Wasteland dirt bikes as well as Ridge Runners to get things done. So let's go ahead and talk about it real quick. So first of all, you have your Cult Alpha. Cult Alpha costs you to be leader. It's going to cost you 265 credits. They're going to be equipped with a hazard suit as well as a hand flamer. They also have a power hammer as well as a psychic ability for additional protection. They also have the fast shot ability too, so that way they can fire that hand flamer twice, which is going to be really important. After that, you got 2 Hybrid Acolytes. Acolyte number 1 is going to cost you 255 credits. This fighter is going to be equipped with a hazard suit, extra arm, as well as a mining laser, as well as the Overwatch ability. So once again, that mining laser is going to be going after your enemy target vehicles, and that Overwatch ability to interrupt activations, extremely important. Hybrid Acolyte number 2 is going to cost you 95 credits. This fighter only has a hazard suit as well as auto pistol, as well as Overwatch, and the reason why is because this fighter will be operating the weapon system on your Ridge Runner. We'll talk about that in a little more detail here in a second. Now, Neophyte Hybrid number 1, you're going to have, that guy's going to cost you 150 credits. That character's going to be equipped with a hazard suit as well as a grenade launcher with frag and crack grenades, and they're going to be armed on a Waster's dirt bike, so that way they can maneuver around and fire that grenade launcher. Neophyte Hybrid number 2 is going to cost you 110 credits. This person's got a hazard suit as well as an auto gun as well as a Waster's dirt bike as well, so that way this guy can scout, seize objectives, that sort of thing. And then you got 2 more Neophyte Hybrids, number 3 and 4. They're both equipped exactly the same. Both will cost you 60 credits apiece. They're both armed with hazard suits as well as las guns. And then finally, you have a Scum Racer. He's going to cost you 400 credits even. That character is going to have a Ridge Runner equipped with a missile launcher with frag and crack missiles. It's got speed fins for additional movement, a crash cage to protect your fighters, nitro burners to give you +1 to your movement characteristic, engine shield to protect against your first non-glancing hit against your vehicle, all-wheel steering and tire claws in order to improve your handling by +2, a redundant drive system in order to protect your drives from being hit for that first non-glancing hit, headlights in case the weather conditions change up, as well as a kill switch to help out your engine as well. So that Scum Racer is fully upgraded for the most part. Now this is a good standing list to start with. It gives you the ability to play around cautiously or aggressively depending on how you want to kit it out. This list also has 3 vehicles in it and relies upon speed and maneuverability to attack your enemies. Now it is mainly a shooting list with very little close combat, and it consists of 2 fire teams, a support fire team as well as your assault fire team. Your support fire team will consist of Hybrid Acolyte number 1, as well as Hybrid Acolyte number 2, Neophyte Hybrid number 3, Neophyte Hybrid number 4, as well as your guys' Scum Racer. Now these fighters stay upon the Ridge Runner with Acolytes number 1 and 2, using the vehicle's missile launcher system to engage the enemy. Acolyte 1 uses their mining laser to penetrate enemy armor on enemy vehicles. Both have the Overwatch skills, so they can use this to interrupt enemy activations. Meanwhile, Hybrid 3 and 4 use their last guns to provide suppressive fire from a distance. At the same time, it's going to cause all kind of problems for your enemy. Now your Ridge Runner is also fully upgraded with protection for its crew, engine, and drive, so all 3 of those will be protected from their first non-glancing hit. At the same time, they have +2 to your movement, +2 to handling, and you also got heavy weapons. The next stage is to purchase twin-linked heavy stubbers for this vehicle ASAP, so that way you can lay down some more suppressive fires with your Scum Racer. Now, your Assault Fire team will consist of your Alpha as well as Neophyte Hybrid number 1 and Neophyte Hybrid number 2. The Alpha remains with the Ridge Runner, but can also do boarding actions upon enemy vehicles when necessary. That fast shot ability is going to be able to clear out enemy objectives really quickly by firing that hand flamer twice. If you want to, and I highly suggest it, give your Alpha a second hand flamer, so that way they can shoot 4 times, which would be awesome, and destroy your enemy that way, which is kind of cool to clear out enemy vehicles. Meanwhile, Hybrid number 1 and 2 use their Waster's dirt bikes to move ahead to seize objectives, to outflank the enemy. The grenade launchers are going to be the one causing most of the damage. I suggest either getting crack grenades or demo charges or blasting charges for Neophyte Hybrid number 2, so that way you can lob those as vehicles as he's passing them up. And this is what I like to call the quick and the dead list. Another really good list that allows you to maneuver on the battlefield and cause all kinds of chaos. Now, the last list we're going to cover real quick is what I like to call the Alien Uprising list. This one costs you 1,395 credits. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different. You have a Cult Adept on this list. This person's going to cost you 200 credits. They're armed with a hazard suit as well as an auto gun. They got a Cult icon for larger group activations. They also have a Psychic Familiar as well for additional protection, and they have the Zealot ability as well. And I forgot to mention, you also get a skill as well. That skill will be Commanding Presence, so that we can definitely do larger group activations. And the reason why you want that is because you have 4 Aberrants in this list. Aberrant 1, 2, 3, and 4 are equipped exactly the same with 125 credits apiece with 2 fighting knives apiece. That way they get 4 attacks on the charge, so absolutely devastating on that one. At the same time, you also have 4 Neophyte Hybrids. Neophyte Hybrid number 1 is going to cost you 120 credits. This fighter's got a hazard suit, a grenade launcher, as well as a last pistol for a backup weapon, and is also the gang specialist. And the Neophyte Hybrids 2, 3, and 4 are equipped exactly the same, costing you 60 credits apiece with hazard suits as well as last guns. You also have a Scum Racer in this gang. This character's going to cost you 395 credits. They're going to be operating a rock grinder truck with twin-linked autocannons, smoke vents for -1 hit against you, and when the enemy tries to shoot at you, easy turnover engine in case your vehicle stalls out, and a weapon stash, so that way you can reload grenade launchers if you need to against your enemy, as well as your autocannon. Now, this list is more of an aggressive list, relying upon your Aberrants to do most of the killing in your gang, especially in close combat. You only have 1 vehicle as well, but even though it may not be very fast, it's kitted out to kill for long-range killing with its twin-linked autocannons, giving you the ability to take down pretty much any type of vehicle just short of a Cargo H Ridge Hauler, so that's the nice thing about that one. Now, this list consists of 2 fire teams. You have 1 support fire team and 1 assault fire team. Your support fire team will consist of your Scum Racer, Hybrid number 1, 2, 3, and 4. This team moves around the battlefield using long-range fire with Hybrid number 1's grenade launcher and one of the other hybrids operating the rock grinders twin-linked autocannons. Now, when able, purchase a boarding ramp as soon as you can for this vehicle, so that way you can assist your Aberrants in boarding enemy actions, so that way you can get that +1 additional to their initiative to do boarding actions on enemy vehicles. Now, your assault fire team will consist of your adept as well as Aberrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. This fire team can fight mounted or dismounted depending on the situation, and with a 5 of initiative, you won't be boarding your enemy vehicles anytime soon, but once you purchase a boarding ramp, which only costs you 15 credits, this will help you with that +1 initiative bonus. Now, you might be wondering, Commander Chiefskate, why don't you just buy it at the beginning? Unfortunately, because you're using a rock grinder truck and it's an STC vehicle, you can only purchase war gear from its starting list at the beginning of a campaign. You have to make a trading action after your first scenario to get that boarding ramp. So my suggestion to you, get it immediately once you finish your very first battle if you make any credits, because you're going to need that to help out that boarding action, okay? Now, the tactics for this fire team is pretty straightforward. Assault forward, kill in close combat, use the added Zealot of Psychic ability in order to help boost your Aberrants to destroy your opponents, and then rain chaos upon your foe as quickly as possible. And that makes it what I like to call the Alien Uprising list. So there you have it. In conclusion, this is what I think about when it comes with the Genestealer Cult in Ash Waste's campaigns. It's a great gang with awesome minis and a great game mechanics as well. Plus, you have really powerful options that you could fit with your STC vehicles, and if you play Genestealer Cults, probably more often than not, you already have these vehicles ready, especially if you play them at 40k. Their vehicles look really, really cool, and it just fits beautifully within Necromunda as well. So if you're a kill team player or a 40k player, you're already ahead of the curve and you're ready to go. You can just throw this gang down and start the chaos and bring glory to the children of the stars in the Ash Waste and Necromunda. So that's good news for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good news for this one, you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.